we're standing, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Michelle Randall will lead us in that right now, and then we will have an invocation. Thank you so much. Beautiful. We will now have an invocation by Reverend Alex Wilkie.
Let us pray. O Lord, you prove that your witness is faithful and true. Help each of us to discover in your example the determination we need so that our witness in public and in secret will also be faithful and true. A clear word spoken and lived without compromise in your faithful name. Now we seek for the blessings of the eternal to be present in each of us. Now bless this council and all of its members, including the mayor. We pray in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Mayor Pike, I don't know if everyone, probably no one knows, that Reverend Wilkie has turned 89 this year. It's either today or tomorrow. And we would like the orchestra to play Happy Birthday, and we will sing to him.
Sounds good. Thank you, Betty. Sweet. Way to go. So, Reverend Wilkie, have you ever had the opportunity to be serenaded with an orchestra in the background before for your birthday? Not in city council meeting. Okay, all right. Very good. Thank you so much. And I believe, Betty helped me out here, this is the Vista, no, it's not. Who is this orchestra that we're listening to?
This is the Youth Symphony of Southern Utah, and it's comprised of Vista, Tuacahn, and all other high schools.
So how come we get so lucky to have you here today?
We didn't have anywhere else to practice.
Well, we are the fortunate recipients, and what we'd love to do if we could, I believe maybe would you have a couple more numbers you could do for us before we start our formal agenda today? Would that be okay?
Yes, and I'd like to introduce first Linda Gadasi DeLuca. If you'd come out, Linda. She's so tiny, she looks like a performing student.
Good evening.
Mrs. DeLuca came to us from points all over the country and Juilliard, and she's fantastic, and the students love her so much from their experience at Vista that you can see she's gathering them from other schools, and she's showing what we can really do with music in our schools. So they prepared some numbers, and we will just turn it over to you now.
The next piece is by Corelli. It is a concerto
Go for it. Thank you, Linda, and thank you to everyone in the Youth Symphony of Southern Utah. We appreciate you being here. You classed us up a lot tonight. Thank you very much. You sound wonderful.
Well, thanks to the parents, all those wonderful parents that I saw bringing their students and supporting them. It's fabulous. Our students aren't in gangs, and they don't take drugs. They play sports, and they play in the orchestra.
There we go. Appreciate you so much. Adam, I believe you'd like to help us with the presentation.
I would love to. In fact, I've got something pretty cool that I wanted to share with you. So, Mayor and Council, I was just informed that our Human Resources Director, Sharon Hokinson, has just received a very prestigious international certification, and it is for Senior Certified Professional from the International Public Management Association for Human Resources. I want to ask Sharon to come up for a minute. She has no idea that we're doing this, and this will embarrass her really good.
Did you wonder why Adam wanted you here tonight? Huh?
I think she was pretty worried. I had to make up a story to get her to stick around, and then I invited her staff, and so I'm sure she's been trying to figure out what this is. But this is pretty cool. I know that you know Sharon, and I would say that she's absolutely one of our best. She leads a very dynamic and extraordinary department, really, of our human resources, and they do a tremendous job, and it is thanks certainly to Sharon's leadership. We're grateful to have her. I just want to read quickly a paragraph from the letter that I received announcing this award. It says, individuals who earn the IPMA Senior Certified Professional designation have met the rigorous professional and managerial standards set forth by IPMA, which are designed to recognize excellence in public sector human resources senior level management. Sharon has demonstrated to a panel of experts her commitment to advancing the role of public sector human resources by undergoing a thorough review of her experience with an understanding of the importance of behavioral competencies to the role of HR professionals. That's a mouthful. What it says is we've got a really great one in Sharon Hoganson. We are so proud of her. I just wanted to share that recognition that she received with you and make you aware of that. And I just, Sharon, want you to know how grateful we are to have you as part of our team. Now, Sharon happens to love Heath bars. We wanted to find a really big, like 3-foot by 5-foot Heath bar that I would have to drag in here. We couldn't find one that we felt was suitable. This is just going to be a little placeholder. We know that she does like chocolate. So until I can find you that Heath bar, I'm going to give you this. But Sharon, congratulations and thank you.
Speech. There's our communications director taking photos, which is good. Would you say 2 months? Yeah. Tell us what this means to you.
Well, it means a lot to me. I have some other certifications, but since I started working for the city, I really wanted to get this one in for it's mainly for cities, for HR directors that work in, not just directors, but people who work in the public sector. And because it's a lot different to work in the public sector in HR than it is to work in the private sector. And so I really have been wanting to get this since I started working for the city. So it kind of means a lot to me. But I don't want to talk about me. I just want to thank all of you for everything that you do for our employees and for the support that you show, especially with the recent things that are taking place. And I just appreciate your support. We have amazing people that work for the city, and I know that you know that, and I appreciate that you are trying to recognize that, and it's very much appreciated, and the employees are very thankful for everything. And I just want to thank Adam too for everything that he does, and he never is too busy for HR and for our employees, and what the smallest thing, and I appreciate that so much, and the leadership development that he has brought to the city and the investment that he's making there. So anyway, and then I just want one more thing. I just want to recognize my team because they are amazing. I have never worked with better people, and there's Julia Layton and Heather Dutton. Stephanie Sparks is not here, but she's a rock star in the words of the chief of police. And who am I forgetting? Tiffany Woods. So they do a great job, and they make me look really good, lots better than I really am. So I appreciate that. So thank you very much.
Yes. Yeah. So, Sharon, about how many full-time employees do we have at the city these days, roughly? And about how many part-time or seasonal? Another 4?
We're about 1,100
total.
altogether.
Yeah. So you really you all don't have that much to do, right? No. Yeah. Yeah. We know only a small portion of what you do, but even with what we do see, We are very grateful for the Human Resource Department. There's so much going on all the time, and we do appreciate all the extra work that's been going on recently as part of the Compensation Review Committee, and some changes that we're making there with some benefits and our pay system, and Adam has been leading discussions, meetings for the last couple of days, and couple more tomorrow, I believe, tomorrow and Monday next week, and I know that you've been under the gun, under a lot of pressure to get this all done by December 1st or thereabouts. So thank you, because that, again, means your team and probably a few others involved, but it couldn't happen without you. And we feel like we are one big family, but you have sort of helped get the family together. So thank you very much. Human Resources is where it's at. So, and it's grown a lot. Yeah. See, there, she's very proud of you, isn't she? So yeah. Well, I think they'd probably say it goes both ways, wouldn't you, ladies? Yeah. So thank you very much. We appreciate you and for seeking that designation. I think that's a great example. I think we want to foster, furthering our skills, education in whatever way we can across the city, and of course within the City of St. George as an organization. So thank you very much. Okay, so next item, we have, I believe, Mike Stagg from the Red Cross here. Mike, there he is, who has another presentation to make for us today. Come on forward.
Well, thank you, Mayor and Council members, Mr. Manager, Mr. Attorney, for letting me come here and present an award that we're going to give to the City of St. George, specifically for your aquatics department in your Parks and Rec. What this award is our Aquatic Examiner Service Award. This is a very, it's a prestigious award. There's about 40 facilities in the state of Utah that participate in this program, and about 200 throughout the nation. And so City of St. George is one of those. First off, I should have told you who I am. Again, as the mayor said, my name is Mike Stagg, and I'm the representative from the Red Cross for this area. I'm actually from Salt Lake area. But this award to me is very, very special that it's being given to you guys here in St. George and to your aquatic staff and to your Parks and Rec staff. And that's because my family, my grandmother actually is a member there at the recreation center, at the aquatic center, swims there almost every day, and and she loves it. And this is why this is so important to me and of much significance, because I get to now present an award for what has been being done. What this award is the Red Cross has come into not only Sand Hollow Aquatic Center, but also your outdoor facility, and conducted operations assessments on their safety aspects, how safe the facility is, looking at the first aid supplies, your AEDs, the emergency action plans, evaluating the lifeguards and their operations, as well as the operations of the supervisory staff, where things are placed on the pool deck, how they set up a lifeguard rotation, and how these lifeguards are actively watching and keeping the water safe for the community and people to be in. It's a lot of hard work. These guys, from the frontline lifeguard staff, all the way up through Michelle and Vanessa and Timmy and Shane, with all the support that they are then given to make changes and do things is very, very commendable. We come in and it's a rigorous process. We look at the lifeguards, we watch them as they sit in their chair. We put them through skill drills and different scenario work, just to make sure they're always in the top form they need to be. They then get written reports on how each person does and how they did overall as a facility. They take those back and then evaluate and move forward to make the facility more safe. And that's why it's important to me, because when my 79-year-old grandmother comes and swims at the pool, I know that she's going to be safe. And when I come down and visit her with my family, I can take my 3 kids to the pools and know that those lifeguards are doing what they're supposed to do. And it's a great asset to the community. And so thank you, council members. Thank you, Mayor, for your diligence, for your support of the Recreation Department, of the aquatics programs there. And so with that said, I would like to bring up that team and just present this award to them, if I may.
We'd love to have you do that. Timmy? Shane, why don't you go up there with them? It's a great facility.
It is. It's fantastic.
We had a chance to tour it, I don't know when that was, last year maybe, and some of us have fairly regular meetings there, and it's a great facility, very well taken care of.
It is, and these folks do a wonderful job with it, and so thank you for the support that you give them. Thank you all for everything that you do for the community, for your staff there, and for your support of the Red Cross in what we're after as a nonprofit, just to make sure that everybody stays safe, that the kids in your community have access to swim lessons, they have access to a swimming pool, and your community has access to a center that's safe. And this here award from the participation is exactly what helps that to happen. And so we're very proud of them and thank them for their commitment for that. So thank you.
All right, will you stand up there for a minute so he can get your picture all together? Mike, join him, yeah. Thank you so much, and congratulations. We appreciate the management and staff at the Sand Hollow Aquatic Center. It's a great facility. Okay, let's see. Jeff Pay. Gosh, have we got anything going on to do with a bike park? Okay.
Yeah, I just about had to go have a shower between this meeting and our activities out at the park. So I don't know if many of you have noticed there's a cloud of dust over the Sand Hollow Wash lately. Anyway, we've been in the process of working and completing our the first St. George bike park, and it's been named Snake Hollow. And we're excited to be able to announce that our grand opening and ribbon cutting ceremony is on this Saturday. And we'd like to formally invite the mayor and council to be there, as well as any of the public that has an interest and wants to be there with us. It starts at 11 o'clock, and there's quite an activity planned for the day, or until at least 2 o'clock. And so if you plan on riding, bring your helmet. So that's probably the only thing you really need. There's going to be food trucks, and a lot of the biking community is going to be there. A lot of the high school groups are going to be there to represent their different teams, and it should be a really good turnout. So we're expecting a lot of people.
I bet there will be, and I know we have a sad but important occasion that conflicts with it, so we'll be a little bit divided that morning. Greg Mathis passed away recently, and at his funeral is at almost that exact same time. But I will be there, and maybe another council member or two, and then we'll have some of the other council members voluntarily representing the city at Greg's funeral at the Cox Auditorium at Dixie State. So it's a fantastic project. We're so glad to see it come to fruition. So many people have helped, haven't they, Jeff? Make this happen.
It's been amazing, and the excitement that's out there with the community, and it's been a battle to try to keep people off of it already, and so comes a point where we've almost given up. But,
yeah.
You know, but well, it's exciting, and it's another iconic project, and another great reason to live in St. George and to visit St. George. So we're excited about it.
Well, and Jeff, we're not finished with it yet, aren't we? I mean,
No.
Are we? With this first phase, we are, but there will be more. It's, what is it, roughly 80 acres
Yep.
in terms of that overall property, and more loops and trails planned, right, Ron? And some more parking,
Right.
pavement, and so forth. So more to come, but I look forward. I hear we've got a really good MC
That's what I hear.
for the event. Ron Jensen, and we're looking forward to seeing some great displays of the young people who've been anxiously awaiting this to be officially open.
Right.
Yeah, you know, Mayor, I have great-grandson number 1. Today's his birthday, and what he's excited about is this coming Saturday to be able to go to this bicycle skill park. It's really, the kids are really excited about it, so you guys have done a good job.
For any that don't know where it is, it's right there on Lava Flow, just across the street from Snow Canyon High School and Middle. And that's where we'll be, right by the pavilion Saturday.
That's right. That's where the activities are, and then we're closing the road at about 9 o'clock, 9:30, and so that people can use the high school parking lot and get across, because we are expecting a lot of people. So
Yeah, I would guess we'll have
thousands.
1,000 or 2 people there.
It's going to be another Thunder Junction, I think. So.
Yeah. Any comments, council? I know we've all been aware of it. Michelle, anything?
No, I think it's great, and I wish I could attend, but can't be in 2 places at once. So we will conquer and divide that day, but
That's right.
Sounds
we're
great.
excited to get it
Yeah,
open.
I think one of the great things about this project is that, you know, we put a lot of effort into sports complex and fields and those sorts of things, but there's a group of kids that maybe don't do that sort of thing, and so this is one of those activities that really focuses on that other group and gives them opportunities, and the amount of people that are actually exercising while they're out there is amazing. You got to pedal that bike just about everywhere. So
You do. And in fact, my wife said, "You're not riding while you're there, are you, John?" And I said, "Don't worry, I'll be good." She says, "No, you're not a kid anymore, and you're fat, and you're going to crash." And so anyway, I promised if I did anything, I would be very, very careful. But I've watched these kids. I just can't believe the facility that's been created there. And like I say, I look forward to more as well. And I think this is mostly for our community, but we will have, I think, considerable interest from others. And that's why we've had support from the county tourism folks to help us with this and future parts of this facility. So look forward to being with you and all those who are interested and who've been a part of this, Jeff. So thank you.
yeah, thank
John,
you.
I
Thank you
think
for
you haven't
support.
heard yet, but I think they're planning on you being the pace bike.
Well,
when it first opens.
No,
They come out through there.
if I'm the pace bike,
It's a slow pace.
yeah, it's a slow pace. Maybe let's see. Where's
Do you know what the
Mark?
whale tail is?
Huh?
There's a ramp out there called the whale tail.
Yes, I know what it is.
Okay.
It scares
Just so you
the-
know, so you don't get
scares the
caught
heck
into
out of
going
me.
down that
I'm
thing,
not
yeah.
going up on that thing. And I think there's such a thing as an e-bike, e-mountain bike. Maybe I could do that instead of pace, but I'd still end up in the hospital.
Well, you know, Mayor, just so you'll know, you're not too old for that. I had one of the residents from Sun Rivers out there. He's been out there and was riding. His eyes were that big when he was telling me about it, you know. So this is for all ages.
That's right. All ages
so
and all
it's
abilities.
really going to be
Yeah.
a big
Well,
hit.
I'm looking forward to it, and you know, really, it does kind of take you back as adults to when you did do these kinds of things. We just had to create our own jumps and ramps, and this is really neat. It's really fun to watch them. So, and you're right. One of the things we talk about frequently, we may not be able to have, you know, all the facilities that everyone would like, and maybe not in the numbers, but we try to have a variety of things. We have dog parks. We have an all abilities park. You know, we have regular parks. We have spinny parks. We have, you know, horseshoes, and we have, you know, skateboard park, and now we're going to have a bicycle skills park. Something for everybody, hopefully. Trails. That's what we're trying to do. So thank you for your role and your staff's role in this, and all those that have worked with you.
Very good. And thank you for your support on it, too.
You bet.
We couldn't do this without you guys. So.
You excited about it, Ron? Yeah, kids excited? Yeah, we've really had, I think we've used it, but we've had good input from those who will be using this. And again, I look forward to seeing, I hope very soon, right, Mark and Ron and Jeff, another track. What do you call it? The NICO?
Nika?
NICA. NICA loop. I hope we see that happening soon, very soon.
And Mayor, you missed the expressions from our city attorney over there in anticipation of his participation in this park. It was just, you can't miss it.
He'll be there. Yeah. Okay, careful. I have to talk to Christy and Suzanne about that. All right,
Thank
anything
you.
else?
Nope, I think
we'll
that's
see
great.
you. We'll
Thank
see
you.
you Saturday morning
All right.
at 11 or a little before that.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, Joe, anything you'd like to say about our friend Greg? Or Michelle, if you can. I know that really was, huh?
I don't think we're ever going to go around the city in the future and not be reminded of Greg because of all the projects he's been involved in, not only private endeavors, but also in the government endeavors that he's been involved in. And he's going to leave a void that's not going to be able to be filled for a long, long time. Greg's been a great member of the St. George Lions Club, and he's been a stalwart friend to most everybody. And I think that's what we're going to miss more than anything. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. You've known him for a long time. Michelle, anything you'd add?
I don't think there's anything I can add. I think, when you hear of somebody passing away, when I first heard the news, it was one of those heartbreaking things, and some of us, you're sad, but then there's others who have had such a ripple effect with so many people, and I truly have never heard anybody have a bad thing to say about Greg, and what a legacy to leave. That's how you would want to be remembered, that, you are a great person. He was a great husband, a great father, and my prayers have been with Jessica, and they had 4 boys, and he was way too young to be taken, but we'll miss him, and Joe and I think Sean will be at the funeral, and some of you will be at the Bike Skills Park, and we'll just go and show our support from the city and how much you mean to all of us.
Mayor,
Yes.
I could say when Greg's name was mentioned again, I just went through my text to see all the texts from him saying, "Yo, bro, give me a call on this or that," and I actually popped in one night at the Lions when I saw Joe's truck out there. So I said, I have to know what's going on Thursday nights there, and Greg was there, and I won't say anything else about what was going on there, but it was. I don't know what to say except that great friend, great person. I don't think people are aware of all the things that he did behind the scenes, and so he truly loved the community, and it breaks my heart that he won't be able to be here with us when his building is done, because
It's almost finished.
he worked so hard and long to get that approved, and I don't know what to say except that 1 in a million will be missed.
Yep, I agree. I was at a ribbon cutting at a building today that was his design. Austin Anderson built it, and Greg designed it there. The Dr. Sean Davis's building there on Riverside, right by the post office. It's I don't know what to say either, because I guess it's this way with anybody. But he was such a presence that it just is. You just expect a text or a phone call any minute from someone like him, and always positive, even when there's an issue. He was just a very, very happy, positive person. Just want to help make this work, that kind of attitude. And so it just isn't, life isn't fair, and we will miss him tremendously. So we'll, ironically, up in northern Utah, Major Brent Taylor will be honored at his funeral, who was killed over in Afghanistan a few weeks ago, and again at about the same time at the D Event Center. So 7 children, all under the age of 13, one 11 months old, and had the chance to work with him. So did Adam, I don't know. I guess they must be needed other places, but we're going to sure miss them here. So anyway, the city will be sending flowers. I don't know if they've been ordered yet, Mark, but yes, they have been. And he's done a significant amount with and for the city. We felt that was appropriate. So, okay. I think we have handled the things we need to, kind of the pre-written agenda. Adam, I know there have been a few changes to the written agenda. Will you take us through those things that won't be heard tonight?
Yeah, let me tell you a few of those. So item number 2, there was a presentation from PEG Development. That will not be heard this evening. They were unable to make it here. Item number 4, there was a public hearing in consideration of an ordinance on West Canyon View Drive. That item also has been removed. And then finally, on the addendum, item 9, consider approval of a preliminary plat for Woodland Townhomes. That's on the addendum. That also will not be heard.
Did you get that, everybody? So number 2, number 4, and number 9 on the addendum.
Correct.
2, 4, and then number 9 on the addendum. Thank you, Adam. Appreciate you and the executive staff and putting things together. And I guess we would just start with the consent calendar.
Let's do that. We have 10 items on the consent calendar. As always, these items are administrative in nature. We've reviewed them for compliance with city regulations. We found them to all be in compliance. I would, however, note item number I, letter I, consider approval of the 5-year water conservation plan update. Staff would ask that we remove that from the consent calendar. There was an amended agenda that pulled that so that we could have a public hearing on that item prior to being approved. So that would leave us the remaining 9 items on the consent calendar, and staff would recommend approval of those 9 items.
So if we could, Sean, help me, we just have that be part of the motion, that we would pull letter I from the consent calendar and approve the others if the council is so inclined.
That's correct, Mayor.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Michelle and a second by Betty. Any discussion? Joe?
On the minutes, that's part of this administrative.
That's
Yes,
correct.
part of the consent calendar. Might also just note there, again, Council, I know you've had a chance to see this, but there are several key things on there that it's good to note. You know, with several trail extensions, services, professional services agreements that are on there that are part of the budget. Just want to make sure that those that are not just the council, but those that are in the public are aware that there are good things progressing here in terms of things like what we call the missing link, the trail between us and Washington. And this is just professional services to do the design of that. Correct, Shane? And same thing with some repairs that would be done on the Virgin River South Trail that's been of interest, especially to Sun River folks. So,
And you know, Mayor, with the music that we were entertained by today and all of the notable comments that were made and the loss of individuals, I think, you know, we have to show that St. George is a variety of things. And if you look at number H, the Heritage Center Cornhole Tournament. Now, we're covering everything in this community. You know.
Horseshoe tournament. Very good. So saying all that, any other comments on the motion to approve the consent calendar minus letter I as noted? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. You might just mention, too, I failed to excuse Councilmember Jimmy Hughes. He's out of town. Was hoping he would be back, but it didn't look like he was going to make it, so just want to excuse him.
With that, Mayor, I would recommend that we proceed with the public hearing to consider approve the 5-year water conservation plan update.
Sounds good.
That item is listed on the amended agenda.
See that on your separate. So, Renee, are you going to present
Renee's.
this briefly to us? And then
This will
we'll-
be very brief, but
Very
I
good.
just wanted to make one note. We presented this to you in a work meeting a couple of weeks ago. This is as I presented it with one change. Just to note, the Lake Powell pipeline is estimated to bring 82,000 acre feet, not 70. 1,000 acre-feet. And since that would be a change, I wanted to make sure you were all aware of that.
Thank you, and that is a correct number. Yep.
Yep.
Okay, then, again, all we will be doing today is opening the public hearing for any who may have come to offer input on this item, which is number 11 on our amended agenda, the public hearing to consider and approve the 5-year water conservation plan update.
So, Mayor, we are also asking the council to approve after the public hearing.
Okay. Can we do that based on how it's listed? Okay, all right. So, I don't see anyone who's come to offer input on this. You should know, public, that we had a great update presented to us, as Renee said, in a work session. And it's considerable effort goes into these things, so that is available if anyone wants to see that. I don't know if it's on the website, but it certainly could be made available.
Assuming it's approved, it will get added to the website.
Excellent. Thank you, Renee. So I will then close the public hearing and come back to you, council, for your consideration. Love to have a motion to approve. I see it says approval on there too. The 5-year water conservation plan update.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Joe with a second by Betty. Any discussion? All in favor? Let's see. It's not a resolution, but I'll just say, starting with Betty, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. Go back to number 3, Adam. Do you want to introduce this a little bit, and then I'll open the public hearing? Or Sean?
Mayor and Council, this is a opportunity for the public to comment on the city's sale of a portion of real estate that is over by the Greyhawk Apartments and Smith's, right off of, I want to say Dino Crossing is the name of the road right there. This is for the Riverwalk development that we're doing for affordable housing in conjunction with Switchpoint. And in order for us to move ahead with the city's donation of that property, which is what we'll be doing as a contribution towards that project, we need to take input from the public on this parcel of ground because the value is in excess of $500,000, just barely, I might add, just barely. And our ordinances require that we then take public input on any parcel that has that value or greater.
Thank you for that introduction.
I see Carol is here.
Where's Carol? Hi, Carol. I missed you. We've talked about this a number of times. I'd love to have any comments from anyone who's here from the public regarding this. Again, it says sale, but it will be actually a donation. This is part of what our commitment is to affordable housing, true low-income affordable housing. So I will open a public hearing for anyone who's come to make comments on this item.
Good evening. My name is Mark McSpadden. I'm a resident here in St. George. I'm going to talk about the principle involved here. This is subsidization through this donation to a private entity.
Not-for-profit.
Well, for profit or not, it's still subsidization.
Okay.
Okay. You have been doing this for years. You've been subsidizing the tourist industry to some extent, airports or airplanes, theaters. And there was an entity in the 20th century, I'll make this quick, called communism. It enslaved for over 40 years most of the population of the world. They murdered over 200 million people. They tortured millions of people to death. And the economic system they practiced was called, and is, Marxism, a totalitarian economic system that brought that about. The Ukraine famine, as many as 14 million suffered as a direct result of Marxist practice. The cardinal principle of Marxism, according to Karl Marx themselves, they use the phrase all the time, from each according to their ability to each according to their need. Meaning government should use their force, whether it's taxation or other means, aggression, initiative, to take the substance of the people and transfer it to others. That is exactly what the city council here, and I'm directing this to the city council and you too, because I've heard you on the radio support this sort of thing, are doing. You're practicing Marxism. And when you, like a liar or any person that lies over and over again, essentially, by definition, they're liars. If you practice Marxism over and over again, you are a Marxist. And that's what the city council of St. George is by definition. Also by definition, thievery is when you take through force somebody's property and transfer it to others, whether it's tourist industry, whatever it may be. You're practicing theft. So you're not only Marxists, but you're thieves. And if that doesn't motivate you to stop your sinning, evil ways, maybe this will, and that's God. For any of you that sincerely think of yourselves as a Christian, serious Christians, the 8th commandment of the 10 Commandments is thou shalt not steal. And you have been blatantly doing that when you take the property, the wealth through taxation of the cities of St. George and transferring it to private entities, whether they're nonprofit or profit, it makes no difference. It's still thievery by definition. So I encourage you to reflect on what I've said. If you really support sincerely local businesses, tourists or otherwise, you would reduce the regulations, reduce the taxation, reduce the fees, the licenses, and make practice capitalism, support capitalism, and not Marxism. And I hope you'll reflect on what I said and turn from your evil ways.
Thank you. We'll give that all the consideration that it's due. Carol, would you consider saying anything to just tell us a little bit about the need?
And Mayor, as she's walking up, I will also remind the council that, and we've discussed this before, in our agreement on the donation agreement, for a total, I believe, of 55 units, 13 will be market.
Right.
That helps generate the income that they need to operate the housing project, and 42 will be affordable housing units, and we have designated the percentage of the median income that is required to meet that. So we will forevermore have that deed restriction on the property, and those units will be available for affordable housing as well as the 13 market rates.
Very good.
Hi.
Carol, so tell us just a little bit about the need. I think that would be good to hear.
Awesome. Yes, I'm Carol Hollowell from Switchpoint, and we're extremely grateful for the support that the city has shown us the last 4 years. I can't believe it already. And to us, this affordable housing project is just imperative to help us get people from a homeless state to housing that's affordable. Many of our clients have money, they're working, they just can't afford the rent here. And so by creating this ability to, everyone pays in this apartment complex, everyone will pay rent. It'll just be based on their income. And so that, I think, is a huge benefit to those clients that are working poor. So there's just a huge need here. Our market study shows 1,800 units are needed right now. That's a big number.
This is 55.
It's 55. It's a drop in the bucket, but it's a start, and hopefully maybe other developers will get the bug.
Very good.
And, you know, I do think that by serving others and, you know, helping the meek, I think that's also a Christian way.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I would, are there any other people? Yes, Kurt?
Mayor and City Council, my name is Kurt Gordon. I would support this. I want to mention one thing in my experience. There's a lot of decisions, poor decisions that adults can make, and they suffer the consequences. But the people who don't have control over what adults do are kids. And I've seen Switchpoint help a lot of kids whose parents may have made bad decisions, and yet they have to end up paying the price. So I would encourage you to support this, and I think it's going to be great for kids who haven't had a chance to make the decisions that their parents, poor decisions that their parents may make. I think you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. I'm going to close the public hearing at this time. just maybe mention a thing or two. One, Carol, as I understand it, and again, as Sean kind of presented, some of these will be very low and sliding scale, but still, that would indicate in most cases these are going to be working people. And so this is, I think, meant to, some of these people may be there for quite some time, but it gives them a transition to where they may be able to be in a bigger place, or they may be at an at marketplace at some point in the future. Yep. Yep. Very good.
And Mayor, I'm glad that Carol mentioned about the one bedrooms and the affordability for those, but also point out in this project what makes it attractive is that it goes up to 4 bedrooms. So
Right.
it allows for low-income families to have a place
Right,
to
correct.
land.
Right.
So it will become a home for people.
And finally, I just mentioned, for those that may be watching, the good news about our system is there are 6 elected officials, 5 today, but 6 elected officials in the city of St. George, and we try to do things, first of all, of course, by law, and second of all, as part of that, very transparently. That's why this public hearing is being held today. And the citizens, the elected, that elect us, can select someone else. If they don't like the way we're doing it, that's the beauty of our system, of a republic. And so I look forward to that. This is not Marxism. This is not representative of what is described. It's a different system entirely. I believe that there are obviously lines that we try not to cross. We try to do as much as we can through the market and through private, donations, private philanthropy, and a lot of that is happening in addition to what we're doing, right, Carol? And so, but I think in this case, as I recall, Sean, this property was donated to the city. I believe
This is part of the Johnson piece
Yeah.
that was donated, part of the park that we have down there as
Yeah.
well.
So it, again, not that it always is going to be like that, but in this case, it really seems like a good public benefit, that I believe is in harmony with the people that have elected us. And so for those that may have a different opinion, I respect that. I just disagree with it, and I think the vast majority of St. George would, and I'm glad about that.
Mayor, I would just like to thank you publicly for maintaining the decorum and the civility in this meeting that is warranted as we serve the public, because it takes a great deal of restraint not to respond to some of the comments that were made here earlier. So I thank you for that, and I believe the citizens of St. George know that they are being served.
Thank you, Ed. Okay, so no action at this point on
You
that?
could just have, as the council, you could take action just to close the comment on this item.
I close the public hearing, but you want a motion? Does that make it? Okay, would someone make a motion to close the comment on this item?
I would make a motion to close the comment on this item number 3.
Second.
Motion by Joe with a second by Michelle. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next. Need some of that music back.
Well, we started classy, now we're evil.
Okay, item 5 is a request to consider vacating a portion of a final subdivision plat called Bloomington Vacation Villas Phase 1 located at 3080 South Bloomington Drive East by vacating buildings F, G, H, I, L, and M and a portion of the common area. Got them all. I couldn't say they did. Anyway, so here's the final plat that was recorded for phase one. Basically, the request is to vacate this area right here from the final plat, leaving these lots in the pad, or in the plat, sorry. So basically, they're just vacating this and leaving the remainder in the final plat.
Questions, council?
We will have a replacement for that.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're doing this as a precursor to what's coming later. And see, this is not a public hearing, so this is just an ordinance. Council, do you have, if you have any questions, otherwise I'd be ready for a motion to vacate a portion of Bloomington Vacation Villas Phase 1 as has been described.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Betty with a second by Ed. Any discussion? All in favor, starting with Ed this time, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Next item on the agenda is item number 6. Consider conditional use permit to allow an event center for the Gather at Town Square in a landmark home and also coffee shop for Affogato to be located in the Carriage House located at 164 West and 100 South. And let me bring that one up. So on the screen, this is the historic home that exists at the address I just gave. And I won't read all of this, but it's on the screen for the public and the council. It just talks about the historic home and how they basically would like to use it for special events like weddings, birthdays, anniversaries, corporate training, etc. And then the Carriage House was proposed originally to be a coffee shop at the Planning Commission, and both of these were recommended for approval. I understand that since the Planning Commission that the consideration is also that it could be either coffee shop or some other type of an ice cream shop or some other type of a retail that would fit in at the discretion of the City Council. This shows from the city's historic book of historic homes what's called the James and Manamus Andrus home, and this is the home. And in an aerial view to kind of give orientation here, where I'm pointing right now is the site. The green area here is the parade grounds, and here, if for reference, is the library, and then also the 5th District Court. So looking from the 5th District Court, you'd see a large parking area, and then this lot is right, its backyard is right into it. This shows a close-up of it. There's the parking and part of the parade grounds, 164 West. And what I'm pointing to right now is the old historic home in the front and the Carriage House in the back. As you know, because it's a historic landmark home, that gives you the opportunity to consider a conditional use permit. You wouldn't just do it on any other properties, but it's an incentive to preserve the homes and the character and the history, and allows them to have the opportunity to come with something such as this and request. I just put this in here for kind of reference. The blue area shows there's a historic district, but this is actually just outside the historic district, and this is the site. The general plan is shown, medium density residential, and the zoning, it's RCC, Residential Central City. And this was submitted by the applicants. And again, showing the building in the front and the building in the back. And at the time, it was only proposed to be the coffee shop, but the request is to also consider some other alternatives to that. Here's some views from Google Map, just looking at down the street. And it's a little hard to see with these trees, but this is the home right here, and even harder to see the Carriage House in the back. I'm going to zip back to the vicinity map and just point out that this, as you know, is a residential neighborhood, and the intent is not to disrupt the neighborhood, but with this large parking lot behind that the city has would be encouraged to have parking back here and then the gate through to pass through to get to the property. The council is probably aware of that, but I thought I'd mention it, and you can see it a little bit better here. I think that's about it. I'm going to look at the staff report real quick. I think I've covered most everything. It is a conditional use permit, and in the staff report are findings. You would have to look at the findings and see if they can be mitigated. And that begins on page 3 of the staff report. The Planning Commission, I'm looking at the top, page 3, does recommend approval, and at the Planning Commission, their recommended suggestions, conditions are, number 1, Planning Commission recommends approval of conditional use permits with the findings A through K. 2, hours of operation typically would be 7 in the morning till 10 p.m. You could certainly discuss that. 3, neighborhood mitigations shall include install access gate from public parking lot, enforce the hours of operation, install an entrance door into the carriage house on the north side to provide even more encouragement to enter through the back. 4, building permits required to change the structures from residential standards to commercial to meet commercial occupancy standards. 5, post a sign to encourage customer parking in a public lot behind the site. 6, the fire marshal will inspect and establish the maximum occupancy. 7, maintain the historical features of the site and the buildings. And I think that concludes staff's comments.
Joe? Yeah, I have a question on the carriage house. Do we have to put a stipulation in there that it's a eatery place as opposed to a retail?
Well, it's a conditional use permit, so you're establishing what uses you feel should be allowed
One of
there.
us first presented was a coffee shop, and
It was originally presented
Yeah.
as a coffee shop,
yeah.
and I think John has some comments.
Oh, good. Way to go, John.
So the Planning Commission, it was presented as strictly a coffee shop.
Right.
Since then, I believe the tenants changed, and so the applicant for the main house has requested that there's a potential of a retail or another type of use, like a retail or an ice cream shop or a cafe could also be in its place. When staff looked at it, those types of uses as far as density goes are very similar, and so we didn't have a concern with those additional requests. The Planning Commission didn't review it, and so I think it's at the council's discretion on whether they want to consider those at this time.
Any recommendations by you or city attorney in terms of how specific we could or should be on that?
Well, if the original proposal for the coffee house and kind of reception type of facility, those, what we generally look at are the parking, right? Because it's in that area and because we've done this with the downtown properties and not required the same parking requirements, and it's a historic home that we've allowed these businesses in to save them. It seems like what they're requesting is actually a more intensive use than what Joe's saying we could add into, which is retail, because those are the ones that have generally more people come and go from them. So I would think we would be, if you'd like to say in this, because we do need to be specific, that it could be for a retail type of use, and John probably could help us with that language there, and the coffee shop slash, I don't know, we're going to call it ice cream shop, restaurant activity there, we would be okay, because actually what they're requesting is probably a more intense use than some of those retails that uses that might go in there.
So a question on that. Are we only talking about the carriage house? Or are we talking about the big old house also?
The request for the house itself would be the gathering, kind of the reception portion of it. And so there's kind of the two requests. The one is for the reception for the main house, and then 2 for the carriage house to be utilized for a retail or a coffee shop or a similar type intensity use.
Okay, so if that's approved, it's not approving the retail in that historic home.
That is correct. That would be specific to the carriage house, unless you guys, the city council, put some sort of condition on it. But right now, that's the request.
And we know the property owner, so we can make sure of what goes in there too.
Because it's us.
Because it's us.
That's the thing is, this isn't an agreement yet, right? This is a conditional use permit.
That's right. They needed to get that first before we would draft a lease agreement.
Any other questions? Good questions, Joe. Thank you. This is not a public hearing. However, if there are any people, neighbors here who would like to speak on this, I would allow a couple of comments. Please come forward. If you just state your name for the record and pull the mic down.
My name is Marilyn MacArthur Smith. My grandfather was a mayor once here in St. George. I grew up in St. George. 196 West, which is just 2 doors west of this proposal. I own the home. It was my parents'.
On the corner there?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The big white house with the porch. Somehow I missed the first letter about this. And I know my brother has been here and talked to some of you.
Jim?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he visited with a few of us.
Right. He's unable to be here tonight because he has a son getting married on Saturday and they're having a bachelor party tonight.
That may be wild.
Yes. Our concern is that this is still a residential neighborhood mostly. And once we get something like a retail or a coffee shop or an event center in there, it kind of changes the dynamics of the neighborhood and feel like it's not really necessary yet. One thought is that perhaps you wait until the Jewel Plaza gets done and the commercial things that are going to be in there, you look at and decide whether you want to do something like this. Another thought is you could use this home to rent to someone, or you could use it as a lot of people like to come down here and rent a condo or an apartment or a house and bring their family, and they'll pay up to $3,000 a week or less. If the city wants to make money on this property, apparently the city owns it. Is that correct? And another concern that I had was, why does the city buy up property? I feel like it should be the people, not the city.
Well, the people really own it. You know, even though it's in the city's name, you're an owner.
But another concern I had, and maybe this is correct, maybe it isn't, is that the people that were going to lease it or whatever they're going to do will not have to pay taxes on it. And that's, I think that's troublesome. A concern and not fair to those that live around there.
Well, but they would be paying a lease, which comes into the city coffers, which benefits the citizens. So they are paying something.
Well,
In
it just doesn't sound right.
Okay, well,
the way it's set up.
Yeah, I understand. And because any government-owned property doesn't pay taxes, you're right. In terms of that kind of thing. But where it's our town square, we have a considerable interest. We believe the citizens do in trying to protect that area. And so once in a while, it's not often, we really don't seek out to buy lots of property, but once in a while when we see something that seems like it would be a wise move and it's adjacent to something as important as that, the city may decide to purchase it. And in this case, we see a value in preserving it, but we see maybe a higher value, again, a good public purpose / private purpose in having, at least some light commercial in there that would also benefit the public square, the town square.
Well, here again, this vacation home or something that maybe somebody would want to use for a week, and I'll bet you could fill it up just all the time.
We could.
With people, and maybe bring in more money than what you will by leasing it out.
Just a comment. I don't think our desire is to make a lot of money, but if if that was turned into a short-term rental, it's still a commercial venture in any case.
It's true.
And you have no clue who might be in there. if we have owners that we already know, I mean, people who are in business that we already know, then we know who they are and what kind of business they're going to run. But a short-term rental in that area, to me, is a disaster. And I got to tell you, I only live a block and a half from there, so I understand that.
Well, there are a lot of things I agree with you that we should be considered. Another thing was, if you go ahead and do this, the lighting that is there at present in the center there is really bright, and I don't know if you would consider putting in lighting that is softer, that would protect, you might say, the area so that it isn't so light and bright. I know that most of the people on that street are not happy about making it into a coffee shop or an event center, especially because there's the Jewel Plaza, which is going to bring so much traffic. And then there's the, I guess, what do you call it, the PEG development over by Judd's store.
Right.
How is that all going to be handled? Does this impact that any or not?
Well, it's not. No, not really. I mean, it's all.
It just seems like you're prematurely changing the neighborhood from a residential to a commercial. And are you going to do that with all the houses? Are you going to buy up all the houses all up and down that street when people pass away, or put them up for sale?
Yeah, I don't know. That's up to future councils, this council and future councils, but it's possible.
I haven't been involved in things like this, but I understand there's a plan, some kind of a plan that the Planning Commission has, and I just think it'd be nice if you could wait a while, maybe to incorporate all of this, so that the people that do live on that street and have interests in it and want to see St. George stay more like St. George than to become a big city. And I could say a lot of other things about other things, but I know this isn't the time or place, but we are very concerned about it and concerned about safety for people that do live on that street.
Thank you.
Thank
Marilyn,
you.
appreciate your comments, and we did get several emails that we had a chance to read. At least I did. I think some of you might have gotten them, and like I say, a few of us got a phone call or a visit from Jim. So we do understand some of those concerns. And First South, there's no doubt it's not the same as it was 20 years ago, and it won't be the same 20 years from now. I mean, things.
I certainly understand that.
Yeah.
But it seems, like I said, premature to start bringing things in like that.
Again, as mentioned earlier, the one positive thing is, at this point, what we're trying to do is preserve these homes, and it's why in this area and kind of nearby we have some bed and breakfast uses and even short-term rental use, not too far away. But at least it's preserving the homes, and not everything can go in these little homes. And if someone else owned the property, they might just tear it down, and they could, and just build something new. And you might like it or you might not. As Joe mentioned, there are other things that could happen, and could be rezoned, And so it's, I don't know. We kind of view this as a sort of a middle ground to try to preserve the character and beauty of the area, and yet bring some light, kind of more neighborhood commercial types of uses there, if you will.
How much work will be done to improve the premises?
Well, there would be some work to improve, especially to make it work for the potential uses inside. There would need to be some improvements on the outside as well for some parking.
Another concern is the hours from 7 to 10. That seems like a long time to, I guess, have the little coffee shop open. The events wouldn't be probably going on all that time, but...
They might. I don't know.
Or would they?
Yeah, they might.
What kind of events?
That'd be, we'd have to have the potential operators let us know a little bit more about that. They did present to the city council in a work meeting, which was also a public meeting some time ago, and got a little bit into that. So we do have a proposal from them. But obviously they're smaller events. You know, these aren't going to be, 500 people. You know, they're going to be very small events.
Because they could become noisy.
Well,
keep
we have a
neighbors-
noise. We have a noise ordinance as well to protect. Yeah.
So another proposal, another thought also that we talked about was, okay, if you go ahead and do this, we feel like the city needs to build a block wall behind our property and behind my brother's property, which is next door to mine, as the city has laws like that where you have residential and commercial and such.
Well, that's not going to change right behind you. I mean, it's still going to be a parking lot at this point.
But really, it'd sure be nice if there were some kind of a fence there that people couldn't see over into our backyard as a residential home. And perhaps my brother, well, he mentioned this too for the house that he has.
Okay. Well, we'll certainly, if the council is inclined to approve this, we'll certainly take those kinds of things in
Because I
consideration.
know there are some laws where I know it's happened to people I know where the city has required a fence be built between the two
Okay, that
areas.
probably wouldn't apply in this situation, but because again, it's not directly affecting your property, and it's not changing the use of the property behind or your property.
No, but when you have other events there, it can be.
But we have events now.
I know, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
The other events that you have there, like the Ironman and such. People try to park in our driveway. People try to park in many places.
You're going to get that, and you do everywhere, and we'll enforce that if they do that. So just let us know.
Okay.
That's probably good for now.
The house that I own, I think the same person that built the house that you're talking about built this same house that I own and had a family living there too.
Yep. Well, thank you. We appreciate your input. And like I say, this isn't a public hearing, but we did want to be able to hear you since you were present tonight. So
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
you bet. Thank you, Marilyn. Okay. Any other brief comments?
I will try to be brief. I'm Deborah Judd. My sister and I own two properties. Jim MacArthur and his sister own the other two. I wrote a letter. I imagine you get so many letters, you are speed readers. But I am concerned about this, and only because it's very inconsistent the way that the properties have been purchased, every other property by the city. I don't really understand why the city buys some of them. You say historic. This building has been called historic at least 11 times every time it's brought up. Well, graffiti is now petroglyphs. If they're old enough, it gets to be historic. I think the MacArthur home is as historic as they come. My home, I say mine, it was my mother's. My mother and dad owned two properties. They were not approached by the city to sell upon the second death, which was in 2010, and the city already owned 3 homes at that point. So I was left with our 2 homes, my sister and I, bordered on either side by city-owned property.
So are
Only
you
one
wanting
of
to
which-
sell yours? Is that?
No, I'm not saying I
Oh,
want to sell
okay.
mine. I'm saying that that would have been the time for the city to have approached us as the trustee of those properties before they were disseminated to the inheritors.
We don't
That's not why
generally-
I'm here.
Okay.
It's just a curiosity because
Well,
the city acts with
yeah.
inconsistency, and so we're left to assume that we are a residential area. Well, I rent my home out, but I was planning to live in it because as I downsize, it's a lovely place. And it's next door to my elderly sister. But it's becoming interesting. The home that was to the left of her is now gone, and it was my understanding. I've lived in St. George all my life, same as the MacArthurs. And I couldn't corroborate this because the people that lived there are both dead, and I couldn't find their inheritors either to ask. But I remember when they were building that home that was part of that twin home that was demolished, that the front one was an historic original adobe, which, I don't know, I guess I'm so old I remember really cool things being torn down, like the old Arrowhead Hotel that had to be blasted out because it was made with lava rock, and the brick on it was glazed brick, but the city tore it down. So it's interesting what is historic and what is not historic historically. So I'm left to wonder, do I fix my home to move into it only to have it not be a place that I want to live? Do I try to make my home, and this I'm just talking for myself, not my sister, who has had the home next to her torn down and is now fully exposed. Those two homes used to be the corner, which she could hide behind, and now she's fully exposed. No one has offered her a wall. She is a very shy person and feels that the city is going to do to her whatever they want to. I think that's a sad opinion, and I feel like we are all adults here and we can reason together. So it's kind of like, what do we do? We've got the city who owns 3, now 2 of the properties there, and the rest of us are inheritors of dead parents wondering what to do next. Do we fix plumbing? Do we add new appliances? Do we plan to live there? Do we want to have families live there? Do we try to make it into a commercial property? Can we also use that property in the back as our parking requirement so that we could put something in there? This makes it difficult for me as a landlord to have a desirable property, because the family that's in there has small children, and now we have a lot of people next door and traffic and parking and things. So I know that you're in a bad spot and I'm in a bad spot, and I'd like to reason together on how this can be a good thing for me.
Well, I think it's a good spot, but it is a changing spot. This is First South.
And as it changes,
yep.
How do I move forward?
Good question. None of us know exactly.
Is my property historic? It was built in 1950. Do I have to make a substantial investment in it to make it historic so I can have a permit to put like a law office in my property? Can I use the property behind it as parking since the city does?
You could talk with our planning folks, and they could explain to you what constitutes, for our purposes, a historic home, historic building, and they could then tell you what the options are.
That's kind of what I thought.
Yeah.
Well, we have to understand that St. George is changing, and I've lived in St. George, was born about a block from this place and grew up in that place. Mm-hmm. And it's nice to see it change. It's okay, but I was kind of hoping that that the city wouldn't grow without me and leave me kind of in the dust there. Not being able to rent it is a financial burden to me.
Oh, I think you can still rent it.
Well, the people that are living there have a sentient point. Their first one being that the dogs next door in the home that the city also owns bark at every passerby. And with increased traffic in the back, that will only increase. It used to be that that was a field behind the school and did not require anything more than cattle fencing. But now there's a walk and gawk. If you happen to be caught undressed in a window, everybody in the town that's walking by can see you. It's unfortunate, and the people who live there, who want to live there, who want to rent to people, it's becoming less and less desirable, and I don't feel like the city's being very supportive of that. They're just kind of saying, well, we own this and we're going to move forward and you catch up as best you can. I don't want to feel that way about the city that I love and have lived in all of my life. Anyway, I was kind of thinking that maybe I could suggest that it was a law office that would close at 6 o'clock, wouldn't bring quite as many people. Law offices usually bring in a lot of money that can be used to keep a beautiful home like that interesting and desirable for the people who come to do their business with a law office. Just a suggestion that might make everybody happy. I'm finished.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, council, we're going to move forward. Any questions or discussion you'd like to have?
I just would like staff maybe to have a clarification, because we mentioned the use of the historic sites and historic homes. And on page 2, John, of this report, it says under historic district, it says this site is not located within the historic district.
So it's not located within the historic district, but if you're a landmark site, then you have the ability to request a conditional use permit, which allows certain commercial uses as approved by the city council. And so it's the landmark designation that is allowing the applicant to request what their CUP.
Right. The site itself is not a historic site. The site itself is not a historic site.
The site itself is a landmark site.
Landmark.
Yep.
Okay. Right.
Yep.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask, even though this is really ahead of things, I'd like to ask if the applicants that, as we put out a request for proposals to see what the interest would be in occupying these two buildings, I'd love to see if the applicants or respondents to that RFP would like to say anything just about the nature of what you're proposing to do. Just briefly, again, that's not what we're considering directly tonight, because that would be a separate contract, if you will, but still like to, maybe it would help the council as well as neighbors just to understand a little bit more what is being proposed.
Definitely. My name's Kay Nelson.
Just get up to the mic if you would, Kay.
I'm
Thank
Kay
you.
Nelson, and with
Brenda Evans.
Debbie Burmundy.
Thank you.
And then Nan Glauser's not here, and so all four of us women that have fallen in love with this historic home have hometown roots. I'm through the Robert Gardner line. My grandparents live right up on 189 Main, which is now a commercial building. So we love the idea of the roots of the past. And that's what's kind of brought this all together, is to bring the past to the future. As we stand at that home, and we've learned a lot about Monomus, that her home was a gathering place. Her home was open, people came, children played, they talked politics, they shared. And that's what we feel like we want to do to this intimate gathering place, is to make it small and a place that people do want to come, sit down and visit, sit down and learn something. We want to host and highlight our local artisans to come in and be able to show their things that they do, have a little areas that they can come and participate, people can come and learn, we can collaborate together, we can have workshops. Nothing major. We don't picture doing big old lights out and everything. It'll be very intimate and small. We recognize that there are neighbors around us, and we do want to be conducive to the noise and to the light and to the traffic, and so we do want to take that into consideration and want to be able to work with them. But we picture it a gathering place for people to come together for the community, and that anyone's invited to come and be able to rent space or rent time. We want to also collaborate with the people in the city. Like if there is an event center going on, we're not hosting it. We're going to collaborate with all of our other event planners that do that, to bring them in and have them help participate in the events that will be going on. And so we don't foresee a ton of traffic. We foresee that, if there is, they will park in the back. We'll make sure that is known, and not a million people there at once. Do you have anything else?
Anything to add?
No, you spoke beautifully.
Debbie?
I just want to say that, like she said, all of us have ancestors that lived here, and we've spent quite a bit of time with the Andrus family members, and had Bart Graff, who lived in the home in the 50s, come over and talk about his memories and the what are those trees that they call the mulberry trees that used to be there, and James Andrus and his horses and his carriages, and these are people that we had never met before, but we had a desire as we started to look at this project to really keep it true to the way that it started. And we all feel that we can't move into the future without the values and the memories and the foundation that's been laid by the past. I would probably have the same exact concerns that these neighbors have voiced if it was going next door to me, because who knows what's going to go on in an event center. But the real desire that we have is to make it conducive to that neighborhood and conducive to that home. And there may be weddings, and there may be 90th birthdays and those kinds of things are the things. The ones we're competing with are the people who are doing events in their backyard or in a church building or on the side of a hill someplace. We're not competing with the falls or the convention center, and we know that this is a neighborhood, and we're very actually excited to meet our neighbors and to do some events with them and invite them there, and also to be able to open it up to the city. I can see the mayor bringing people to this city, and instead of meeting in a corporate boardroom someplace, bringing them there and catering the lunch and being able to say, here's this caterer and here's this person and here's this other person. And this is what St. George really is, because it's these homes that really are the foundation of St. George, and that's what we want to be true to take our roots and to be able to take that into the future. Thanks.
Thank you. Council, any questions that you have since we have our respondents to the RFP here? Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate your interest, and I think there's been a lot of thought, as I think we saw previously, Council, to this proposal. So,
Mayor, for me, this is a real challenge because of the two sides of this issue. But this house is located on the north side of 100 South, and you have the Children's Museum all the way up on that north side on Main, the library, almost everything from 100 South from this point up all the way up to Tabernacle. You can see the type of activities that it's being utilized for and what's been taking place. It's part of the change that has been taking place within the city, and for me, it poses a real challenge. But I've kind of, in my mind, seen everything north of 100 South seems to fall in place with what has been transpiring over the last several years.
Yeah, thank you. Any other comments or discussion? Otherwise, ready for a motion regardless of which way. This is a conditional use permit, again, that we are considering to allow an event center for the Gather at Town Square and a landmark home, and a coffee shop or similar kind of retail for the carriage house located at 164 West, 100 South. If you're so inclined to make that motion or a different motion.
I think when we put out the RFP on this home, the reason that we really looked seriously at these ladies' RFP is because they're going to keep the historic quality of the home. We like to keep those historic homes and make it an attraction to our downtown area where we have invested a lot of money to attract people downtown, and also that it was going to be small and intimate. When my youngest daughter got married, she wanted this backyard wedding, and there was an old home downtown, and the owners of that home, it's a mother that had passed away, and they've inherited the home, and they've done a few weddings there, and it hasn't impacted, maybe parking for a couple hours during a reception or something like that, but I just don't see this being a huge detriment to the neighborhood. And so I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to approve the conditional use permit for 164 West, 100 South.
As we've discussed.
As we've discussed with the recommendations by the Planning Commission.
Second.
I have a motion by Michelle and a second by Betty. Any discussion on the motion?
I just want to say that I have a lot of historic relatives. My name doesn't indicate it. You can't tell which families, but there's a lot of them. I'm probably related to every one of you. And I love this place, and I love the essence of it. And I guess it was when I walked around the block by the rodeo, the roundup, two or 3 years ago, and I saw all these people sitting out on their lawn in the dark. It was kind of eerie at first because there were no lights, and they were just listening to that announcer, and they were soaking in the essence of what this place is. And I just want these houses to stay. I don't want someone to buy them and tear them down or put some inappropriate thing in them. And I think it's a safety thing for me. I think it's wonderful that the city cares enough that we do buy some homes to protect them. And I feel like that's what we're doing. So that's what my second's about.
Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Appreciate the input. And I think as we go forward with an agreement, that would be the next step. We'll certainly take these comments into account. Thank you.
Next item on the City Council agenda should be item 7. Consider a conditional use permit to allow construction of an RV garage that would exceed the allowable building height of 15 feet unless a conditional use permit is approved on Lot 15 in the Meadow Valley Farms Phase 2 subdivision. Property is located at the intersection 3910 South, 2520 East. So this shows the vicinity. The property is outlined right here. Here's Little Valley Road. Here's 3910 South for reference. And under the general plan, it's RR, which is rural residential. And the zoning is RE20, residential estate, 20,000 square foot minimum lot size. This is just for reference, shows that it is Lot 15 of the Meadow Valley Farms Phase 2 amended plating. This is from the set of plans from the applicant. It shows different views, isometric views of the proposed RV garage. And if you look at where the arrow is here on the screen, this is the home that's being constructed, and then back behind it in the corner of the property is this proposed garage. A site plan shows us a little bit better. Again, here's the shape of the lot. Back in the corner is the detached garage. It's about 30 feet from the house. It has to be a minimum of 6 feet, so it exceeds that. And what they are asking for is 3 feet in the rear and 3 feet on the side. They would just have to provide from our joint utility committee a letter that there's no utilities and there's no issues with it there, and they're fully aware of it. And I think this one may have been done already. We'll have to verify that. The floor plan, if you kind of look at it, they're showing superimposed and phantom RV, and then a boat and a truck and an ATV and trailer, just kind of showing what the intent is. This area would be like a shop, shows a workbench, single story. This is showing the entire site, the home, and back here in the corner again is the garage that's requested. Pool is also shown, the area and the other amenities that they have. Large properties. This again shows the floor plan, electrical plan, and they have a couple different elevations so you can look at the building. And then here's the measurement. This is the issue for the conditional use permit, is the height. As you know, we measure to the midpoint of the roof. The ridge is 21'7". The top of plate is 11 feet. So you end up with 16 feet, 3.5 inches. That's the height. So in reality, it's 1 foot and 3 inches above what would be approved without a conditional use permit. This has been submitted by the applicant. The brand new home will be the similar materials, stucco, red tile, and a lot of decorative wood on the outside, looking like an old world. I think that concludes staff's comments. This is a conditional use permit, so the Planning Commission does recommend approval, which should be on page 3. And I'll read that. Whoops, I'm on the wrong one, sorry. I'm back to the coffee shop. We've got to move away from that. I'm back to page 3 also, but I'll start on page 2 of this staff report. And the Planning Commission does recommend approval at approximately 30 feet from the house, 3 foot on the side and rear. And then the comment number 2 on easement from the JUC. Concrete driveway shall be paved back to the garage that's shown. It is a single story. Colors and materials will match the home. And for the findings, items A through K, in particular, item G applies for the height of 16 feet, 3.5 inches. Item J, it might bring your attention to that. Maintain character and purpose of the zone. It's way back in a lot. These are very large lots. It's not uncommon to what you would find out there. So a detached RV garage is within the existing character of the zone. A garage of this height is not unusual. And that concludes staff's comments.
Thank you, Ray. If there are no questions, I'd entertain a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve the permit to allow the construction of the RV garage that exceeds the allowable building height and located at the intersection of 3910 South and 2520 East Streets.
Motion by Ed, second by Betty. Discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Mayor, with that, why don't we move to the addendum?
Okay.
If you'd like. That'll take us to item number 1, the final plat for Bloomington Vacation Villas Phase 2.
Aha.
The plot thickens.
We used to say the thick plottins, but okay.
Okay, item one from the addendum is a request to consider approval of a 12-unit residential final subdivision plat called Bloomington Vacation Villas Phase 2. Representative is Rosenberg Associates. Property is located at 3080 South Bloomington Drive. Zone is PDR. Again, as we discussed, this was vacated out of the Phase 1 plat. This now becomes Phase 2 of the Bloomington Vacation Villas. So this would be Phase 2 of that final plat.
All right, this is what we were waiting for. Any questions? Ready for a motion if you are, counsel.
Make a motion to approve, Mayor, the final plat for the Bloomington Hill Vacation Villas Phase 2.
Motion by Ed and second by Joe to approve the final plat as has been presented. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'm glad there are none opposed. Motion carries unanimously. Councilwoman Randall had to step out for a moment. Next.
Okay, item 2 is a request to consider approval of a 28-lot residential subdivision final plat called Fieldstone Phase 5. Representative is Development Solutions. Property is located at 2240 East and approximately 3600 South. Zone is RE12-5. All aspects of this final plat reviewed by staff and it meets the conditions of the preliminary plat. So if you look here on your vicinity map, here's the Fort Pierce right here. Here's Bentley Drive right there and Little Valley Drive right there. So this is the plat. This is the old Bentley house. Anyway, I lost my train of thought. Anyways, this is it. The city is purchasing, they are selling this property to the city right through here, as the water department has requested to buy that so they can extend from, oh man, I forgot the name of the subdivision here. So they can extend water and sewer in the future down through that area and tie it into the development in the future and provide a second feed and allow for sewer in that development at some point to sewer. City is also helping participate in the construction of the road here on that south side that the developer is not required to pay for, as right now it's just a field and a property owner that lives there right now. So we're helping to build that south portion with impact fees so that the road will be built all the way through here.
Makes sense.
And Wes, just for the public to be able to understand that this is a 12,500 square foot lots, all of them.
Right.
Yep. Residential estates.
Right.
I think. Yep. Anything else, Wes, or any questions, council? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve this final plat for Fieldstone Phase 5 as presented?
Mayor, I'd make a motion to approve the approval of the final plat for the Fieldstone Phase 5 as articulated.
Second.
Motion by Ed, second by Betty. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
None opposed. Motion carries.
Okay, item 3 is a request to consider approval of a 14-lot residential subdivision final plat called Fish Rock Phase 1. Representatives Development Solutions. Property is located at Ledges Parkway and Movie Rock Drive in the Ledges Development Zone as PDR. All aspects of this final plat, again, were reviewed by staff and meets the conditions of the preliminary plat. So if you get off on SR 18 to go into the Ledges, there's the roundabout there. Then you take Ledges Parkway to the south, which is this road right here, and it leads you right to Fish Rock right here. They are constructing a roundabout right there. This road will be a frontage road that will parallel SR 18, and then this will extend on for future development.
Questions, council? Otherwise, ready for a motion for this final plat.
Second.
Motion by Joe with a second by Ed. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, item 4 is a request to consider approval of a 20-lot residential subdivision final plat called the Ledges of St. George Pocket Mesa Phase 1. Representative, again, is Development Solutions. Again, the property is located at Ledges Parkway and Movie Rock Drive. Zone is PDR, and all aspects of this final plat were reviewed by staff and meets the conditions of the preliminary plat. So the last plat we looked at is right here, and then this is this plat, Ledges Parkway here. There is, within this plat, there are 2 associations. This lighter hatch here would be owned and maintained by the Ledges East Master Association, and then this hatch right here would be common area to the Pocket Mesa Homeowners Association. So they do have 2 different homeowners associations that are involved in this.
Does there have to be anything in this that stipulates that it's between 2 HOAs and they have both agreed to what's being presented here?
Yeah. So this area, how
we liked it.
That's what my wife said when I asked her to marry her. Yeah, maybe.
It just honestly scares me when I see something like that.
They really fall under the same association, the Ledges East. It's just that it allows them to charge them differently. So the homeowners would be responsible to pay for. They have dues both for the master and then for their individual association.
And Wes, these 2 HOAs, could they authorize the short-term rentals in here, or is this completely?
No, this one isn't. I don't think. Is this one short-term rentals, John? I don't think this one is for short-term rentals.
Sean, my question, does it make any sense? And
Yes.
And can we do this?
Yes, you can, and I think we should require that they give us evidence that they have those agreements in place between the 2 HOAs. And that should be a requirement of your motion, so that in the future, if one of the HOAs, or they decide to change it, we can go back and say, no, that was a condition of approval.
Good.
Probably the best we can do.
And I think that, by the way, with his wife, he was only granted a conditional use permit, not an approval.
It was noted on the plat. All right. Anything else, Wes or Council? Are you ready to make a motion with the stipulations mentioned by Joe and Sean?
I am ready to make a motion that we approve the final plat for the Ledges of St. George Pocket Mesa Phase 1 with the stipulation that those agreements are put in place prior to starting on all this.
Between the 2 HOAs?
Between the 2 HOAs. Is that close?
That's good, and that those agreements remain in place.
Yes.
Second.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Joe with a second by Ed. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, item 3 is a request to consider approval of a 4-lot residential subdivision final plat called Meta Valley Farms Phase 10B. Representative is Development Solutions. Property is located at Quarry Ridge Drive and 4040 South. Zone is RE20. All aspects of this final plat reviewed by staff and meets the conditions of preliminary plat. Look here in your vicinity map. Here is the Fort Pierce. So it's adjacent to the Fort Pierce. Here's Quarry Ridge Drive that will extend from Commerce up to Horseman Park Road in the near future. And it's actually 5 lots, not 4 lots, I'm sorry. It's these 5 lots right here. Here is the floodplain that is the current floodplain right here, and then this is the line that the city has submitted to FEMA as a revision to the floodplain.
Show me with that arrow where the fifth one is, the 5 lots.
So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right there.
One behind there.
So I will make a motion to approve the final plat for Meadow Valley Phase Farm, Meadow Valley Farms Phase 10B, and it is a 5-lot residential subdivision.
Second. Motion by Michelle, second by Joe. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, item 6 is a request to consider approval of a 14-lot residential subdivision final plat called the Reserve at River Hollow Phase 2. Representative is Rosenberg Associates. Property is located at 2580 East and 1240 South. Zone is RE20. All aspects of this final plat reviewed by staff and meets the conditions of preliminary plat. I don't see, oh, here's your vicinity map. Here is 1450 South, 3000 East is right here. So it's north of 1450, west of 3000, and then there's the Virgin River right there. And this is the Cox property right here, and their Cox home.
Questions, council? Otherwise, ready for a motion on this final plat.
That's another 20,000 square foot.
Yeah, these are larger lots, you're correct.
I make a motion to approve, Mayor. Final plat for the reserve at River Hollow Phase 2 is articulated.
Second.
Motion by Ed with a second by Michelle. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, item 7 is request to consider a subdivision of 2 parcels into 4 parcels called CNC Cattle Farms LLC. Chuck Spilker, representative, is Alpha Engineering. Property is located at 3210 East and 2450 South. Zone is A1. And so this is a subdivision of 10 lots or less. So basically there's a lot here and a lot here right now. They want to subdivide this into 2 lots and these into 2 lots. This is a platted road right through here, which allows for them to do a subdivision of 10 lots or less.
Just to clarify for me, and I should have asked it the other night, but those lots that are on the left-hand side,
These right here?
yeah, they are not part of this request.
No, it's just subdividing this lot into 2 and this lot into 2.
And then do they still maintain the acreage that they need in the old one, on the left-hand side?
Yes.
Yeah, they're still qualified for whatever that zoning is.
Right.
Thank you.
And again, Mayor West, this is a 40,000 square foot.
Yeah, so this is zoned
Minimum size
A1,
lots.
so all of these still meet the minimum acreage of 1 acre or more.
Yep.
Any other questions, council? Otherwise, ready for a motion for this approval of the subdivision of 10 lots or less? I think that should be 10 lots or fewer. Anyway.
It's just the way they call it, 10 lots or less.
Motion to approve motion to approve to subdivide 2 parcels into 4 at 3210 East. Can you tell I can't even read tonight? 2450 South.
Second.
Motion by Michelle with a second by Ed. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, item 8 is a request to consider approval of a preliminary plat for a 12-unit residential subdivision to be known as Desert Solace. This is within the Desert Canyons. Development is located approximately at 3100 East Rimrunner Drive. Density is 2.83 dwelling units an acre. Applicant is Desert Canyons. Kurt Gordon is the representative. Zone is R110. So here it is right here. Here's their Desert Canyons development. It's right here. The yellow line represents the Utah-Arizona border. And this is the development right there, those lots right there. The only change you'll see is they had proposed putting in a drain line. There's a low spot right here on the Arizona side where there's a small drainage area about like this. Maybe it comes over here like this. And it ends up right there. They had proposed putting in a pipe and requesting the city to take that pipe and maintain it. However, I went and looked at it, talked to the applicant. I think it would be better just to put an easement on here, a 25-foot easement, and do like an open channel that would just convey that. I get concerned with putting a pipe that might get plugged with the silt and debris that will come off of this area here. Talk to the representative. they're okay with putting that in Lot 10 as a 25-foot easement and having Lot 10 just maintain a channel through there, just an open channel.
Who's going to maintain that?
It would be Lot 10. It would be an easement on their property for drainage to be conveyed from that.
Not going to split between those two lots.
No, it would be all in Lot 10.
Mr.
Sean?
Guzman's not concerned at all by the look of his face.
That's good.
We have extensive experience with drainage easements and private maintenance, and we know what happens there generally. So that's a concern. Now, who's the adjacent property owner?
Right here?
Yeah.
Arizona.
That's what I thought. Yeah. So
should we do something different, Sean?
I think we should look at doing something different if we want this to work in the future, because if we don't, I think we're going to be
So,
we're gonna have a problem.
so I think what you're suggesting is the city ought to own it if we're going to maintain it, which we are.
If we want it to be maintained.
Yep.
Now, it's draining
from Arizona to us.
To Utah. The challenge you have with the pipe, and we could maintain it just, I would leave it open. Challenge with the pipe is if it plugs, how do you get in there and maintain it? I'd leave it open if it was me.
Well, okay.
Either way.
If the city wants to maintain it.
But who, yeah, I was going to say, wouldn't we rather face the challenge of the
Yeah.
maintenance than believe that a private property owner would do that?
I see a challenge if we don't own that, because 20 years from now, when I'm dead and gone, the guy who owns that may say, you can't get on my property.
That's right, and it won't be maintained properly.
Right,
and
that's
then
the
we'll-
bigger challenge, is trying
and-
to keep it open and have someone maintain it.
And is
That's
it-
right.
And is it going into the storm sewer, I assume?
Yeah, so it'll be conveyed through here to the storm sewer, and then they have a storm drain line right here that will come down through here, yeah, so it'll get into the storm drain.
What did we call this water walk that we have? Couldn't we make it like that?
Yeah. The only challenge is that's nice, clean water. This is water that comes off a hillside, you know, and so it's carrying silt and mud, and that's the challenge with it. But yeah, I mean, it could go either way. If the city wants to maintain it, that would work great.
Well, I think if we want it to work, if it's designed so that flows forevermore, then to think that a private property owner is going to maintain that, especially after a big storm and a lot of silt gets in there, I don't know that that's going to happen.
Does this make any difference to you guys?
It is a smaller basin, so that's kind of why I was on the fence as far as that goes.
I just am not sure about the cooperation we're going to get from, Arizona.
Right.
If we have more than we think, or, anyway. Kurt.
We think the open channel is a good idea, and we're all for that. We could do it either way, although we do want it on one lot, not on two.
Yeah.
And the other thing that we've kind of had a challenge with is that if we do this and the city takes it, we'd like to make sure that it's not an access then into Arizona, because once you cross that line, it's like the wild, wild west. And, well, for the people who are
accessing it.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the neighbors, they're the.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting point. Well, Sean, from a legal perspective, would you prefer that we, deal with this previous to or before we approve a preliminary plat, or is it something we can approve this for now and solve it?
It has to be conditional then upon resolving this issue with the staff, because it would be good to hear from our public works what they think would be the best way to handle that. But I don't know that having that open ditch on someone's property is going to be something that works well over the years.
One of the challenges I would have, without an easement being wide enough, are we going to go in there with a shovel?
Right.
A hand shovel and clean that out?
Right. And the potential is to have a lot of silt go in there.
So it would be a 25-foot easement is what they're proposing, which is about what we usually have.
All right, council, would you, how would you like to deal with it? You can approve this subject to staff working out with the owners an acceptable, and that includes our public works staff, an acceptable solution here.
I'll pass that motion.
Yeah, I was just glad to hear that Joe gave himself another 20 years. That was the positive side of the today's meeting. It's going.
Okay, so Sean?
And the acceptable would be acceptable to the city.
You're right.
Yes, I just want to make that clear. It's not
Okay.
to
I'll
the
include that
developers,
also.
acceptable to us.
Michelle made a motion. Was there a second? Okay, we got 2 seconds. We'll give Joe the second. At this time, any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
So we'll bring that back with the final plat
Yeah.
and discuss that. Okay, item 10 is a request to consider approval of a 126-unit residential subdivision to be known as Desert Hollow at Desert Canyons. Site is located approximately at Broken
See,
Mason Drive.
it's
Yeah,
contagious,
I know,
huh?
I'm losing it. I'm sorry. Site is located at approximately at Broken Mesa Drive and Rimrunner Drive in the Desert Canyons development area is 17.56 acres, density 7.17 dwelling units an acre. Applicant is Kurt Gordon, zone is PDR. So again, the one you just saw before was right here, that Desert Solace. You've seen this Desert Hollow through the zone change process. They are doing a temporary detention basin right here, as all their drainage will come here and be detained here with the caveat that it'll move to the west as development increases to the west, and then they'll put in a more permanent detention basin there. We have requested that, this is common area right here, we have requested to see if they could leave this open and we can maybe work with the school district and get an access through here into the school site, as the only frontages at the school property are here and here. So, somebody living here, it'd be, it would have to walk all the way around, where it'd be nice if they could get an access somewhere in this area. In the past, sometimes the school district's been hesitant to allow that, and so we're going to try to work with them and see if we can get maybe an access approved through here so that pedestrians could walk through here and not have to come up to this road here. Yeah, we did it over at Sunset. I know that on another one, we tried to do it, and they were reluctant to allow for it, so, yeah.
What was the number of units again, would you please?
It's 126.
Is that,
It's 2 phases. This would be phase 1 here, phase 2 here, with the amenity building being built as part of phase 1. I think the access from the school, looking at the elevations, will probably come from this road here, as there's a fair amount of elevation change between this road and the school side.
Any other questions?
The detention base would be on whose property?
Be on their property, so we'll get an easement for that temporarily until at such time as they move it to, and then we can vacate at that time.
motion?
There's a wash over here that if you ever go out there and take the bike trail, I rode the bike trail, it was really great. But anyways, there's a wash over there. There's a culvert where that trail leads to that would take it down by that 10-acre park property that they have dedicated to this city as a community park. And then there will be rock sloping this hillside here, this slope that will be excavated between that desert crossing them, and they've decided to put rock mulch along here. And they've indicated that if it's a slope less than 10 feet, they would maybe look at doing some hydro seeding. I think they're a little concerned that the slope here is fairly rocky, and they're not sure if they can hydro seed it. That's why they've proposed the rock mulch.
If we can just have it look better than the one between Sun River and what's that river? What's it?
Riverstone.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
You remember how the residents really were disappointed in that? And Kurt, I think you'd be wise to just try to find a way to have it look nice,
I agree.
it really is, at least the way it is, it's a very ugly backdrop for some of those residents, and it's a steep slope there.
Yeah,
So anyway, I don't know.
Did I hear Kurt's nod say yes? Are you going to make it really attractive?
Since you share the residents on both sides, I think,
Please, we don't need any more grief over this one. Motion to approve the preliminary plat for Desert Hollow at Desert Canyons.
Second.
Motion was by Michelle, second by Ed. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you, planning staff. Thanks everyone for being here. Adam, I think we have maybe a couple things to bring up in reports quickly, and I believe we do need a close meeting. You want to bring up the first thing?
Correct. Yeah, I just wanted to pass along that a few weeks ago in a council meeting, in fact, we had a number of residents who came and they expressed some concerns about a traffic issue that we were having on Dixie Drive right there at Parkside Circle, I believe. And that list of concerns was passed along to Public Works, to our Streets Department. And I just wanted to report back to you that we received a thank you card today that was signed from quite a few of the residents over there. They were really pleased with the quick response by city crews. Got out there. Yep, that's right. Got out there, just got the job done right away, and that really made those residents happy. So, you know, we see how it works and how we can get results pretty quickly. So kudos to them.
Yeah, we appreciate Cameron's response to that and the staff.
Similarly, and I'm sorry that not every one of our, department heads are here to, the applicable ones to hear this, but I know that Adam passed that one along to department heads in our executive staff meeting earlier. But this one, I was at the I don't know if it's the final one, but one of the final Bluff Street project meetings that they called a community action team meeting, where the contractor meets with businesses and with the city, and they kind of coordinate regularly through the project. And I think they've done a really good job. But I went in to just thank them all as they're nearing the end of that project, and they mentioned to me, the contractor in particular mentioned to me that usually, Adam, they say it's tough working with cities sometimes, and in this case they wanted to highlight our police department, chief and deputy chief, and they wanted to highlight that relationship and how critical that has been, as we know, that to have the police be able to come out and what a difference that makes when they've got to do some kind of change in traffic pattern, and when you see our police officers out there, instant attention, instant compliance, and no major wrecks during this, knock on wood, no major wrecks during this project, and that's always the concern with such a major state road. So PD, our water department, also Adam, we've just got to remember to pass this along, and our parks department, Mark Goebel in particular, they just really praised those three areas in particular. I'm sure fire had a role as well with some things and others, but those were the three that they really hit. So I love to hear that. I think I forget the contractor's name. It's like Meadowbrook or something like that. Meadowlark Lemon. Anyway, I think they've done a great job, really, in this project and in the previous years out at I-15. So anyway,
I'd just like to echo that. I was talking to Myron Lee today, and everyone involved, I don't know all of the people that were involved, but I just said UDOT because I live over there, so I was on that road all the time, and my neighborhood complained, and I just said, oh my goodness, just be glad you have legs, just be glad you have a car, and be quiet. But the thing is, it was done so really, it was just amazing how they had it organized, and it's true, every day the configuration was different, and people were trying to figure out where to go, but they did get to go where they needed to go, and it's just a beautiful road now. And if you'll notice, there are little waves in it, and that's because they had historic
buildings
that they had to go around. If they're historic, it's my foot, but anyway, they still had to go around them.
Colored land.
And they're 11, those little lanes are 11 feet, where the regular lanes are 12 feet. And the weird thing is that when you're driving next time and you get into those little ways, notice that it's smaller and that you change your driving pattern and habit changes, and you go slower, because for some reason psychologically it tells you that you're in a smaller lane, and which is actually kind of good because people go a little slower there. But anyway, it's amazing how.
Or curve it.
Yeah, curve them. No, I'm not. Anyway, I agree with you. It was just
It's a big
something
improvement.
to behold. To
Yeah.
be on the inside and watching it was very, very interesting for me.
They're going to have a, whatever, they call it a ribbon cutting event on, I want to say December 19th. So we'll get you more information on that. They'll be ready sooner. But Commissioner Chairman now, Nagi Zanati, is I believe in Iran for a few weeks, and we wanted to have him here. So we'll be doing that, and we'll
They
let
need
you
to
know.
break a bottle of champagne over that road, not a scissor thing.
Something, yeah.
This is a transportation, like a ship.
Yeah. Well, and we might even bring some bikes, because you can now, for the first time in a long time, you'll be able to go under, you'll be able to cross at Sunset and Bluff. There wasn't a way to do that. There really wasn't. And so now you'll be able to go under and connect to our trail, get over into your neck of the woods, Betty. And so anyway, I think it's going to be really nice to have that finished. Let's see. I have to just quickly report that for those of you that have been to Ibigawa, all is well there, and we had a very successful trip. I really regret I didn't make it to the bathhouse.
I was going to say, did you do it?
But I have to tell you, Betty, you're going to love this. Patrick Gass, do you know Patrick? He speaks excellent Japanese. He went with us, helped us translate. He does those Japanese tours coming here, and he helps us with ours in January with the exchange. But he went with us and helped us a lot with our translating. So his host family said, we're going to go to this hot spring. And he said, oh, well, I didn't bring a swimming suit. And they said, no problem, no problem. And don't worry. And he's like, even he knows Japanese. And he was like, Mayor, I'm not sure what to make of this. And I didn't put two and two together. That's where they went. They went to the bathhouse. And he said, they give you this little tiny towel. And I said, this sounds very familiar from last year when Betty went. Anyway, he went, and he said it was awesome. And Mayor, you should go there. You should have listened to Betty. You should go there next time. Anyway,
It's really fun.
It was a great trip. Everyone's safe. The 16 students that we took as part of the delegation were incredibly well behaved, and
kids had a good
the marathon. Some of you know we take some of our winners, and they get to run theirs, and their winners come and run ours. So one of our runners won the overall half marathon, because they do both, a marathon and a half. Riley, can't remember his last name. Riley, do you remember? He's from Ogden. Great guy. He's won our race a couple times. He didn't win it this time, but I think the winner couldn't go, and he was second or something. So he got to go, and he won. And then Sylvia, can't remember her last name either. She was the female winner of our marathon, and she won their half marathon in terms of the women. And another one of our runners from up north took second place in women for the half marathon. One of our runners, who was, I think, in the Masters area, he came in 13th in the marathon overall. So we had a really good representation. I will have you know, to avoid an international incident, I threw the mayor's walk. I did not win the mayor's walk, because I just didn't want him to think we were winning everything. So I hope you appreciate that.
Yeah, I really do.
All right.
Well, I'm glad you explained the bathhouse there, because I couldn't help but notice Randall's expression when you said you didn't make it. I think she looked a little relieved.
Yeah, I think everyone would be relieved. But anyway, I hope next year maybe that Michelle and our city manager could go. So
hot tub.
Yeah, and we'll help you. We'll talk you through it. It's but it's really a neat thing, and it's 24 hours to get there. You know, it's a 12-hour, one plane flight's 12 hours, the other one's just a couple. I know, selling it. 2-hour bus ride there and an hour. You know,
we had a 2-day layover in Denver.
Yeah, they got stuck.
Day layover.
So it is a lot of travel, but once you get there, and it's a little different when you think, oh, staying with people, that is really, though, what makes it. You just form these friendships in 5 days. Isn't it unreal, Betty?
It's really unreal.
It's just amazing. And I could show you, if someone took video, of the tears by these cute Japanese people as we drove off, and by some of the people in the bus as we drove off from their city hall. It's a neat thing. And to think, as we approached, December 7th, this wouldn't have happened, even maybe 50 years ago. But this tradition that was started 30 years ago by Mayor Brooks, it's kind of a cool thing to have it carry on. So, any other reports before we ask for a motion to go into closed meeting?
Just like the report that we got out of the Planning Commission at 6:30.
An hour and a half? Not bad.
Unbelievable.
Joe, do you typically meet on the second and fourth Tuesdays? Okay, good, because someone asked me that, and off the top of my head, that's what I told them. Okay, good answer.
And I'd like to direct you to our website and our city page, because our calendar has a lot. We're putting all of our arts events. We're trying to tell everyone, because there are so many. Oh my goodness, there's drama and music and dance, and it's just, the city's just on fire. So please go to things.
Not like California.
No,
but,
not like that. Wrong word.
Mayor, I just mentioned that the Hillside Board met Wednesday, and we're up at the old airport site, and that the Temples Trail phase, the road from the top on the west side, and that development just below that was moved on. And so you get more details with some of the conditions and observations that were made.
Good to know. So we'll be seeing that at some point.
Yeah.
Any other reports? Adam, anything else to report here? Great compensation update meetings. I've been to one, and I know Michelle went to 3. Ed, have you been to any? And Jimmy went to one. Anyway, not required by any means, but it's a great presentation, and I would say very well received.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of gratitude.
Yeah.
And everybody views it, I think, as a great step. So.
And gratitude, I mean, actual applause in the meeting. And really. most people really do understand it, and they understand it's significant, both personally and in total, for the city. But I think it is the right thing to do. And Adam has expressed, I believe, our intent very much, and I appreciate how he has done that. He's just said the mayor and council feel that it's appropriate and time to appropriately, compensate our employees, both in terms of the pay package and some of the benefit changes. And, there's some things we wish we could do more of that, we'll have to wait for. There are other things that, they're exactly right, I think. I think we're striking a good place, good balance.
Yeah, and Mary, we appreciated the fact that Adam let all the employees know that really when he came on board here, that was one of the main conditions, that this council expected to be able to respond to the employees' needs, and it's being done, and we appreciate that.
Well, and he said almost those exact words in the meeting I went to, and I appreciate that. I knew he wanted to do it as well, but he recognized that the elected officials said that as one of our first priorities. So appreciate that, Adam. Very good presentation. He always reminds them of the importance of our mission. He did that at the very end, and I love that. So at this point, in terms of a closed meeting, purpose would be for potential property purchase and sale, or
Disposition.
And any other updates on any litigation. I can't remember. So property, city property issues and litigation.
And we're going to have you out of here by 8 o'clock.
Okay.
Mayor.
No. They will be because, as you know, we have to keep these things right to the point. So we will.
Move to
Mayor.
move to adjourn from regular session and go into closed session.
Motion by Betty, second by
Ed. But
Any-
Mayor, I just want to comment, when you're talking about property, can you give us any hint where that temple is going to be? I'm getting asked
Me too.
every turn.
I have no clue, but my
We
guess
still-
my guess is let's pass this motion first, and then I'll give you my guess. All in favor of the motion, starting with Joe, say aye. Aye. Motion carries, and Washington City somewhere.